do a quick video just because it's something I've been thinking about. So I had this, I talked about this in another video a while ago, but I figured I'd bring it up again. So when hiring, what I typically do is, you always go through this process. You go and interview a bunch of people, you hire a person that you think is going to be good, and then they suck. So what we started doing, and this is what I used to do at McDonald's as well, is there's two steps. One is you want to do interviews with multiple people at once. What happens is it allows you to see a few things. One, you can see how they interact with each other, and you can kind of have them sit down, and you have to step away for a moment for whatever reason, and you can kind of see how they're interacting with each other. Do they get along? Are they kind of like posturing? Like, what are they doing, right? And then also what helps is, like, when you're doing interviews with multiple people, what you might have thought was a decent person, when you put them side by side with another person, it's either going to show you that they're like an absolute all-star, or what's going to end up happening is you're going to see, well, they really weren't as good as what you were thinking. So that's part one for the hiring. The next step is, like, when you do actually hire people, I still like to hire multiple people at once for the same position. And the reason for that is because at the end of the day, like, you really don't know what's going to happen with this employee, and you really don't want to go through the entire hiring process all over again, right? You don't want to go through all the paperwork, you don't want to do the hiring, you don't want to do the training, you don't want to do everything all at once, all over again. So what you end up doing is, when you start two people, you're doing twice the amount of work for, the paperwork, that kind of thing, but it's actually really not twice the amount of time. So then what ends up happening is, more than likely, one person is going to stick out and they're going to do a great job. The other thing that ends up happening is, because you have two people side by side, they kind of have to, like, fight for the job. And you can say, it's like, look, you two are on the training period, or three people, whoever you end up hiring, be like, hey, you guys are in a training period, and whoever the best, that's who I'm keeping. So it allows you to get through the people pretty quickly. So that's what we do. Short video, but it definitely helps. We did it at McDonald's a lot of times, and there you're going through a lot of employees. I think during the course of the year, I probably hire anywhere from 50 to 100 people. So you kind of know right away what happens. And I think because of that, I use, like the saying I always do is, it's like, I don't listen to what people say, I just watch what they do. And, like, you can learn a lot about people through the hiring process. Again, like, when they're sitting there with other people, how they're interacting, you can just see it. Like, the person that they are, especially when you're not near them, you can see how they're interacting, because they feel as though, when there's a group, they are, competing against one another, but, like, are they cordial with each other, or are they just a straight up asshole? So anyway, hope this stuff helps. If you're just starting out, you probably can't afford to hire multiple people at once, because you can't handle it. But as you start growing, I'm not saying it's necessary, but it kind of does help, unless you are pulling those people from, another business, and you kind of see what they're doing. And then, speaking of which, when you go to hire people, I will tell you that the people that are at McDonald's, if you go into, like, the fast food places and stuff like that on a consistent basis, and, like, you're at the place where it's really busy, you're going to see who can cut it, who can't. Obviously, if you're doing HVAC or something that needs a certification, like, this isn't going to work. But if you're just, you're doing landscaping, fence work, that kind of thing, I'm telling you, if they can handle McDonald's on lunch rush and everything else, they can pretty much handle anything. If you've never worked at a McDonald's, especially a high-paced McDonald's, you just don't understand how horrible it is. You don't understand the amount of stress you're dealing with. You don't understand how fast-paced it is constantly. You got to remember, like, these people are doing millions of dollars a year in burgers. Now, obviously, now it's much more expensive than it was in years past, but I'm telling you, back when, like a Big Mac was like $3, we were doing like $3 million a year. It was ridiculous. So anyway,